Welcome to Card Table Commentary. I'm your host, Seymour Peterson. Card Table Commentary is about the changes that have occurred in economic thought between, say, 1950 and the present. When I went to college in 1960, this was my economic textbooks, Paul Samuelson's Economics. I believe they still study from the same book. It's a classic basic economic textbook. This is a recent book, The Deficit Myth, by Stephanie Kelton. It concerns itself with modern monetary theory, which is a very trendy topic with economists these days, and it seems to be influencing a lot of people. I am 78 years old. I grew up in the 50s and the 60s. I have an interest in, have always had an interest in economic policies, and especially the role of the Federal Reserve. I am not a trained economist. I feel that I have a certain measure of common sense and a skepticism about things that sound too good to be true. I don't believe in borrowing from future generations. I believe in living within my means, trying to be self-sufficient and debt-free. Starting in about the year 2000, I started to get a nagging feeling that things weren't right, and that the powers that be weren't helping. Don't you wonder why it's so easy to get into debt compared to what it used to be? I remember when I graduated from college in 1965 and I got my first good job, one of the first things I did was bought a $35 vacuum cleaner from Sears and paid for it in monthly installments so that I could establish a credit rating. Nowadays, anybody who's got a pulse receives unsolicited, pre-approved offers of credit lines of $20,000 to $30,000. They say inflation is too low, and yet it seems like we have less and less discretionary money to spend. Medical and educational costs seem to be going up at a rate far faster than anything else. Countries like Venezuela and Argentina encounter intractable monetary inflation by practicing economic policies very similar to what we're doing. Why can't the economy be like it was in the 80s and the 90s? How come politicians are always talking about the gap between the rich and the poor, and yet it just keeps getting wider? What'll happen to all the debt that's been accumulated by individuals, businesses, and governments? How come people who've won the Nobel Prize suggest courses of action that to me are utter nonsense? Why is it that the stock market can keep going up at double-digit rates when the economy is only growing at 2%? Why can't you earn a rate of return on a short-term investment that at least covers the rate of inflation? How come big investors and big business seems to be benefited by the activities of the Federal Reserve? And why is it that the Federal Reserve seems to favor debtors over savers? What we're going to talk about on Card Table Commentary is not political. Both political parties seem to have ascribed to the same notion that you can spend as much borrowed money as you wish and that there won't be any consequences. This became most apparent when the Trump and the Biden administrations passed several appropriation bills to mitigate the effect of the COVID epidemic. By the time they got through, they'd appropriated a total of $4.7 trillion. In comparison, the Second World War is said to have cost between $4 and $5 trillion in current dollars. Now, to me, the Second World War was a big deal. We built 27 aircraft carriers, 10 battleships, 300,000 airplanes, 100,000 tanks, and we had 12 million men under arms. Compared to that, the COVID thing was a cakewalk. And to be spending the same amount of money on the COVID deal that it cost us to fight the Second World War is indicative of how priorities and values are distorted by current economic thinking. If you want to hear more about these subjects, keep watching for new installments of Card Table Commentary. If you like what you hear, press the like button or the subscribe button, or better yet, leave us a comment.